Hello, church leaders. I'm Ryan Tucker, an attorney here at Alliance Defending Freedom. Today, I'd like to briefly talk about one of our fundamental rights, the freedom of speech, what it is, some of the threats it faces, and how it applies to you as a church leader. Let's start by defining what the right actually includes. What is freedom of speech? The freedom of speech is simply the ability to say, write, or otherwise express what you truly believe without fear of punishment or retaliation from the government. It's also important to point out that this principle protects what is not said, meaning that you can't be forced to say or express messages that you don't agree with. While the right to free speech is broad, it's not a blank check. We'll discuss some legal limitations for pastors and churches later. But first, let's talk about why free speech is so important. As a church leader, you proclaim the gospel and teach about your faith. Having the freedom to communicate openly, not only in your house of worship, but also in the public square, is central to the ministry God has called you to. Yet in our increasingly secular culture, some have tried to limit this freedom, and they show no signs of letting up anytime soon. Fellow church leaders have faced threats to their right to speak freely and even to preach freely. For instance, several years ago, the city of Houston tried to subpoena sermons and other communications of local pastors in a lawsuit that the pastors weren't parties to. And the reason? Simply to see if the pastors had opposed or criticized the city regarding a proposed ordinance. But attempts to limit free speech go well beyond pastors. They've affected everyday people like those in your congregation who simply want to live out their faith. People like Chike Uzabunam, a college student who was stopped twice from sharing his Christian faith in a public area on his college campus and threatened with disciplinary action. Or take Nikki Bruni, a pro-life advocate and sidewalk counselor who, due to a Pittsburgh city ordinance, was banned from counseling or praying with women on a public sidewalk near the entrance of an abortion clinic. It's clear, silencing certain viewpoints not only harms the spread of the gospel, but also our ability to live out our faith. Alliance Defending Freedom is committed to protecting the freedom of speech. So let's talk about your rights as a church leader. Church leaders don't give up their First Amendment rights when they agree to lead a ministry. In your personal or professional capacity as a representative of your church, you can speak freely about the cultural and moral issues of the day without restriction. In fact, given the scripture discusses much of what is being debated in our culture, churches have a unique role in guiding that discussion. You should feel empowered to live out your faith. The potential legal limitations begin only when you start taking political sides in your professional capacity, when you start talking specifically about legislation, political parties, or even about candidates. This stems from a 1954 law commonly referred to as the Johnson Amendment, which prohibits churches and pastors when acting in a professional capacity from speech that shows support or opposition to a political party or candidate for elected public office. And this includes sermons. Now, there have been attempts to fix this problematic law, as we believe it has a chilling effect on ministers. But unfortunately, it's still in the books. So where does that leave you as a church leader? What does the IRS say you can do? Well, church leaders, again, should feel free to talk about issues, regardless of context. And when you are speaking in your personal capacity, as opposed to speaking on behalf of the church, you should again feel free to support or oppose an individual candidate for office. The questions do arise, however, when we start talking about speech on legislative issues. A church may discuss legislative issues, support or oppose legislation, and encourage its members, the general public, or specific candidates to support or oppose legislation, but only up to an insubstantial amount of the church's annual budget, time, or activities. Unfortunately, the IRS doesn't define what an insubstantial amount is, but instead determines this on a case-by-case basis. Here, prayerful consideration is strongly encouraged, as well as seeking legal counsel. If you or your church has questions about what qualifies as a quote-unquote insubstantial amount, or about your First Amendment rights in general, you can access helpful resources and legal counsel through ADF Church Alliance, an affordable legal membership program for churches. Go to adfchurchalliance.org to learn more. I hope this information has advanced your understanding of the value of free speech and your rights as a church leader. May God bless you, your work, and your congregation.